Hi, so in this last part we will add some details and render out an image of the car. But first off we need to name our objects so they will be easier to work with. So here is a scene collection with all our objects we have made, and they are named really badly. So let's start out by selecting the car body. Yeah, that is a name, that's great. Select the front wheels, so double click and just rename them front wheels. And then we can select this one, and this must be the back lights, and this the front lights, the fenders, and the rear wheels. Now we have some kind of order. Great, so we want to add a grill. So let's zoom in by rotating the scroll wheel and selecting the car body, and we can press number 1 to only select the vertices, select this one, and then press Shift S and cursor to selected, so we get the cursor here, and we press tab to exit edit mode, and now we want to add a new object, so let's press Shift A and let's add a cube. Let's press S to scale it down, we drag, and then we want to scale it up in Z, so press S and then Z and drag it up, something like this, and I want to move it inwards, so let's press G and Y, drag it in, and now I think I want to have it even a little bit smaller, so scale it down, then S, then Z, something like that. And I want to mirror this object, so let's first press G and X and drag it over here, and then go to the modify properties and add a modifier, our mirror, and let's mirror this object over the car body like that. Great, and now I want to make an array of this, and I will show you what this means. So if we add another modifier, and let's add array. Right now it's not working correctly because I want to do the array first. So if we move this up like this, and now if we start to move like this, you can see if you turn off the mirror here, if you add another object, it creates an array of this object. So and I think I want 3 like that, and let's turn on the mirror again, and let's press G and X and let's move them towards each other, so G and X, yeah, something like that, and maybe we need a last one like that. I want them a little bit tighter, so G and X, yeah, that looks good. Okay, so we have some objects going up too far, but we can actually just apply this modifier. So if we're not in the edit mode, we are in the object mode, we can press tab, and then you can see if we now want to edit, we would edit all of them, and we don't want that, so let's exit edit mode. We are in object mode, then select the array and or hover the array and press Ctrl A to apply, and if you now press edit mode, they are all individual objects again. So we can select these and press G and Z and just drag it down, and we can drag down this a little bit as well like that. So I have some kind of grill, but we want to change the material, so we go to material properties and show steel. Great, and I also think I want to change the color behind the grill, so we want to have that black, so let's press edit and edit mode, and let's press Alt Z to leave X-ray mode, so press number 3 on the select faces, and we can press C to circle select, and let's take these, great, and add another material, and we can actually just use the rubber and press assign. Great. And I want to add some kind of ornament up here, so let's press Shift A and let's add a cylinder, scale it down like that, press G and drag it up, move it in, so G and Y, drag it here, and we can enter edit mode Let's press number 3, select this one, X to delete the face, and back to number 1, select all of these, and G and Z, like that, and then E to extrude, but inwards to S, and we can drag it in, and then we want to have E in Z, and E and S, and E and Z, and E and S. Maybe just add some details, so E and S, and G and Z, and I actually think we can just fill it like that. And let's add a material. So let's take steel, and now we can see it's kind of hard edge. Time to shade this smooth, and then add a subdivision modifier like that, and time to add some loop cuts so we get the sharpness that we want. So let's press tab and Control R, add one here, and I want one there, and then I also want, we can press tab on numpad to zoom on the selected, and Control R, drag it out like that, and we want we can press Alt Z and select these, and Shift E and drag, and I actually want this ring also to be hard, so Alt left click and Shift E and drag. And here some artifacts, we don't want that, so press tab again to enter edit mode, and Control R to add another loop cut. Something like that. Great. Okay, and last thing I want to add before rendering out this, I want to add some kind of windscreen. So let's select the car, enter edit mode, and I want to select this one, and we can press hold Control and left click, and then I also want to have this one. And while we have these vertices selected, we can press Shift E to duplicate, right click, and then press P to separate, and we choose selection, and then exit edit mode. What we did is that we duplicate the vertices and made a new object of them. So we can name this window, and now we can modify. So press tab and A to select auto vertices, and press E and Z and drag it up. Great. And now we can just shape the window to our liking. So GG, I recommend edge sliding by pressing GG, GG again, and I want GG this down a little bit, and this GG down, GG down, and I want to move these vertices back, so G and Y and drag it back. Great. Shade smooth, and since I copied vertices from the car body, we have the mirror and the subdivision to start out with, because the car body have these modifiers, so that's great. And I want to select all the vertices in the bottom and drag them down, so G and Z, something like that. And I think I also want to move these vertices in a little bit, both of them, so G and X. Yeah, and then add a loop cut and drag it down. I think I want to shape it a little bit more. GG, GG, something a little bit lower. GG and GG. Yeah, so just shape this window to your liking. But right now it have no thickness, and we want to change this, so let's add a modifier and choose the solidify modifier. Let's take this one, and we want to place this before the subdivision, and we want it to have even thickness, and I want to have it more thick, so let's press 0.3. Yeah, great. Let's save. And I want to render this car to be photorealistic, and Render has two render engines, and from the beginning there is the eevee, that is the default choice, but I want to change this to cycles because it's much more easy to get realistic results when you use when you're working with cycles. So change to this one, and it's also more easy to add realistic glass when you're working with cycles. And I want to change the device to use my GPU. Great. So let's change this to viewport shading rendered. So this material I want it to be glass. So let's go to material properties, and as you can see, it also inherit all the materials from the car body, so we can take these away. So, and let's create a new material. Let's call this glass, and to make an easy glass shader, you can just start out by drag the transmission value up to 100, and then right now it's kind of frosted glass. We don't want that, so you can just take the roughness down to 0, and now it's completely clear, and I want it to have some kind of bluish tint like that. Great. So right now we're just missing floor and lights. So let's change this. Let's start out by creating floor, so we can center the 3D cursor by just pressing Shift C, and then we can press Shift A to add a plane. Let's scale it up like that. Maybe we can drag it down. If this is too heavy for your computer, you can just go back to a material preview shading. And now I want to snap this material to the bottom of the wheel, so we can go up here and we want to choose snapping, and we want it to snap to vertices, and we activate it by pressing this button or pressing Shift Tab. If we now press G and Z and drag it up, you can see it snaps to different parts. We want it to snap to the bottom of the wheels, and if you look from the side, yeah, it works great. And I want this white material to be a material, so let's change the name of this to ground, and I want it to be a bit shiny, and I go back to the render preview, and if I max out this value, the roughness to 0, it's like a mirror, but I want to have some kind of, yeah, great. So let's add some light. What I used to start out with to get some kind of good lighting but also a lot of reflections is to add an HDRI image to the scene, and to do this you go to this one, the world properties, and you press the yellow button for the color, and you go to environment texture, and then you just choose the HDRI image that you want, and you can get these free from Polyhaven. I have linked down in the description, and I don't want to see the image, I only want to have it in the reflection, so I go to the camera and scroll down to the film and set it transparent like this. Great. And as you can see, I get the light from the HDRI image but also the reflection, so this is exactly what we're looking for. But I also want to add my own lights to get a more dramatic lights. So I want to go down the strength of this image, so let's drag it down to 0.3, maybe even more, 0.2. Great. And I think I will also, the light that come with the scene from the beginning, I will delete this. Great. Okay, let's start to add my own lights. So let's press Shift A and add a light, and I want to add a area light. So let's drag it up, so G and Z, and I want to scale it up like that, and I want to G and Z, and I want to turn off the snapping, and I want to the transform pivoting point, I want to change this to the 3D cursor, because if I select this and press R to rotate, it rotates around its own point. I don't want that. I want it to rotate around the 3D cursor. So let's change this here, and now if I press R, it will always kind of point towards the car, and I want that. Great. So I want to have one light from here somewhere, so I just want to rotate it down by pressing R around X. Great. And then I also want it to rotate around Z, something like that, and I want it to scale up, and I go down here to lightning, and let's give it some more power, maybe 500. Yeah, something like that. And I want it to have some warmer color, maybe like that. And I select this lamp, and I press Shift D to duplicate, right click, and then press R around Z, and I want to rotate over here. Great. And I want it to have some other color, a bluish, like that. And then I also want some kind of rim light, so let's press Shift D again, right click, and rotate this around Z from the back, and I want to rotate it down, so R, Y, and I want this to be a little bit pinkish, like that. Great. And if we just try out how the car looks, if we press F12, it will start to render. And as you can see, what this image is showing is not the angle that I was showing my car. And this is because when you press F12, it looks through the camera. And if I want the camera to see what I see right now, you press Ctrl Alt 0, like that. So this, if I select this, this is what the camera sees. So if we move this where we want it, so G, something like that, and then you can also press R to rotate in another axis. But I think this looks cool. Maybe move it to the corner a little bit. Great. And we can go back to the camera, and we can see here the render. The max samples are 4000. That's a lot. We can actually drag this down to like 200 and still get a really good image. And if we now press F12, you can see how it works, and the sample will count up to 200, and then the image will be done. But right now I think the lights, the front lights, are a bit bland, and I don't want that. And you can see the image are a bit jagged, and we can fix this by pumping up the max sample. So I drag it up to 750, and as I talked about the lights, I want to add some kind of bloom to the light, it's called. So let's go to the compositing tab. Let's press use nodes. We can drag this over here, and we can search for the glare node, glare, and we put it here, and we change this to fog glow, and we can just have it like that. And so when the image is done, it will add some glow from the lights. Great. So if we go back to layout, I want this floor to completely fill up the image. So let's press scale. Whoops. And this is because we're scaling around the 3D cursor. We don't want that. We want a medium point. And if we now scale it up like that, and I actually want it to go up so all of the image is white, so let's press tab and take these two vertices and press E and Z and drag it up, and then we can press 2 to select lines and press Ctrl B and drag and scroll, and we can get a nice bevel. And then enter object mode and shade smooth, and let's look from the camera, and we can just move this up a bit, G and X, and we can rotate it R, Z, and the whole image are in the frame. Great. So let's just render this car out. Great, so this is how you make a photorealistic cartoon car in Blender. So thanks for watching.